When you have the luck of leading with your higher self, you'll know no regret of those choices that you've made with life and relationships because you will have the functional child adult, so healthy self worth. On the other hand, those who have insecurities, they might, depends on when they began to either work with a good therapist or they grew to become self aware, accountable, regulating, and therefore became their own self agents. And so at that point, they do have and enjoy a very, very good emotional, mental mastery of their own inner world. And so sensations, images, affects, behaviors, and meanings, don't throw them in their temporal junction and they're not ruminating, okay? And that's where I'm going to give you the gist of it. So here I get to be that 5D mystic, spiritual self help, mindful, living, loving person, self empowered, enlightenment soul age group, knowing how to explain to you my integrated brain, my restorative, embodied, self aware, accountable, regulating life. And then if you want, there's mentorship. There's also the paid subscription based model content for video exercises. There's the main modules of the inner growth mindset. There's courses, master, all that, master classes, retreats. So you can call me woo-woo pseudoscience because I respect sciences. And in the meantime, plenty of people don't believe in the sciences. So with that, our 5D collective are Christ consciousness because they have oneness consciousness. They might not use the word the way that I do. That's okay. They won't care because they actively know that they are the only healer of their own self. And the ones of us who are mystics and spiritual know that God works in mysterious ways, the divine, and nobody's picky about it and nobody is correcting anyone. And when we meet past self people, they will say, I'm a healer and you're trauma dumping. And we won't do anything because we're not martyr superiors. What we just met is basically their mask, like my facade friend, and it's a teenager who's still unseen and likes to be like the flat earthers. So it's basically Peter Pan with lost boys. And therefore, their insecurity is called the projection that we know Patrick Tiahan could help them heal, and that they don't want to because they don't even know about the social construction of reality and how we consistently evolve as a species to incorporate more of universally accepted laws and societal ideas. And so right now, for example, we have mysticism, spirituality, and all of different types of those of us under the spirituality umbrella with religious backgrounds, like in the book that when it comes out, I'm a co-author of, The Way to God or The Ways to God. Okay, so it comes out on the 28th of June. If you go to the YouTube channel, community page, or Instagram, you'll see we had a first discussion, some of us co-authors together. And on that note, those who don't like us, it's okay. 3D, 4D, they're going to continue with their cognitive dissonance and structural dissociation. So when I meet someone who says your brain can fall out of your asshole, I don't take them seriously because they don't know not only the art of loving, a verb, it's a self, that consistently expands as well. So the verb of love from the art of loving, and then the verb of the self, and I use Maria's words her way, interpersonal neurobiology. And what I can tell you is that because of leading with a higher self and not having exiles when it comes to emotions, I don't have a mask for anything because I don't unsee myself and I don't unsoothe myself. And I don't have unhealthy mechanisms of soothing. No, I am my own lover and I am not my own siren. I don't do inner critic, outer critic. I have a compassionate mind. So here's where God to me is discerning, wise, good judgment, equanimous, calm and centered, like the ventral vagal state, and loving, like when you're a securely attached, non-traumatized person. And that's why I don't regret any of my life choices. And even if there was one thing that I regretted, I said, if I went back in time, I would still do it. And it's not a shadow. I would actively speak my thought because I like to speak authentically to people I love. I won't lie to you. That's a whole self. It's not a special gift. It's called integrity. So you'll have it when you know how to be your higher self and therefore the one and only, well, again, for those who have spiritual, they will use whatever words they want. I like to bring it all in. Anima mundi, I accept all, reject none, dark matter, dark energy, and everything. All of it. And there's no single hierarchy of anything, but there's one God. So there's one intelligence and one consciousness. And that's where it's pretty straightforward who wins, which is why there's no superhero or supervillain. But the ones who wear a mask, they actually are only using their left mode, meaning they want pats behind each other's back. So they will refute to see Sam Harris's quote of, if your stuff is based on reality, your most cherishable beliefs, then it means you know it can be falsifiable. That means you're grounded in reality. We are, and we don't go down an Alice in Wonderland, so. The part about those who are divisive about words, we don't play with them because they don't actually know integrity. They know how to pretend to have integrity based on using words in their way, which isn't going to affect those of us who are our own lovers. And that's because we're being our own self. And that's not by lying with a mask that has child parts that are wanting to come forth and be hugged by the grown up of themselves. No, it's actually with an open heart. And that's where the Holy Spirit gets to say hello. And the people in cloaks who hurt children, they hurt children and they say that they are supposed to be able to keep doing what they're doing instead of use the law. And those who say yes, I say, okay, no, because, I mean, really, don't hurt children. And yes, there's the law. There's no, like, how can I break it down? When you are objectively thinking about something called, we have laws that protect us, and then we have people who are being hurtful to us, it's a straightforward equation. Unless you want to, again, justify with a mask, which is where cognitive dissonance and structural dissociation come into the mix, and it's a half a brain person, and that's a cut off from Purusha Prakriti, as the mystic world would say, and that's from a lot of different heritages, but basically means that we got a person who's an adaptive child. They don't care about the whole of humanity and well-being. They don't even care about the whole of God, the topic. No, they care about self-serving, what they believe in, what their cherishable belief is, and then they throw a bunch of books at you, which is why a person who's smart is going to be like, okay, you just did the thing called I got petty and don't know how to talk, and I'm just throwing at you books, and you don't understand what spiritual stuff is, do you? It's all in the invisible plane, and that's also why people have spiritual sciences, technology. It's not true. In the meantime, sciences does heal people, and in the meantime, the sciences prove that the kingdom of God is within every person when they're healing and becoming their true self. And I'm here for self-help, personal development. So my focus is you be you and I be me right now. Integrity. What other people say about you doesn't matter. You will not be and don't want to be ashamed of what you have done. Exactly. And if you have, you repent for sin. You don't identify with it. You will do what you can to make up for it. And that doesn't mean you will forgive. You don't have to do that. That's the part of where every person works with those things in their own way, but you will want to achieve the compassionate mind, which gives you access to your higher self. And that way you don't project onto others that which would be reactivity, because essentially reactivity comes when a person doesn't know their inner world because they don't know how to be loving, and therefore they don't know how to be stable, to be committed, and to have that integrity with their functional child online so that they can walk a walk and talk a talk together with true, authentic, higher selves in the lead that love to have those very in-depth and important, significant conversations. So it's not about polyamory or monoamory. Lovers are stable, committed, and have integrity and are true partners in life when they have a whole self. And when you hear some therapists say, yeah, one of the number one biggest regrets for people is that they will have been with people that they don't love. Well, no shit. If they don't know healthy self-worth, how are they going to be with? Patrick Jan makes it very clear what love yourself is. It's a shaming, confusing, let-down sentence that those who say no to his therapy, they will continue doing that which they've been doing because they did not learn to get out of the dysregulated shame, defectiveness stuff. And when some woman says it's dangerous to have emotions, and she then says, we need to perform for love, and then there's other men who do other stuff, you're like, yeah, sure, keep on talking. Meantime, you don't know how to self-regulate in what is your ventral vagal state or your restorative embodiment, and you don't know self-awareness, accountability, and regulation skills in the frequency of love because you don't know your own securely attached body yet. And that's what instead you will know if you're ready for self-help, and that's personal development and or spiritual growth. And that's where the IHP, we take seriously that. So we work together as people who are minds that are owned by ourselves, because we own our brain, we own our heart, we own our body. And so sensations, images, affects, there's a window welcome to it, not where you get clinically dissociated and I get to hear you and see you with pseudo aliveness and you pretending that you're great when you're not. That's a lot of people who don't go and get help, and that's because their behaviors are actively maladaptive patterns and adaptive child patterns. And when they do the mannerisms of that adaptive child and they don't take themselves to heal, but they find some story for themselves, like the flat earthers, they find a group. They didn't do the I'm getting out of my insecurity and I'm going to deeply, deeply experience what's happening to me. No, they distance themselves from it. So With that being said, because we have another episode for a lovely full moon, and that's going to be on divine counterpart, accessing your higher potential by loving and being you. But divine counterpart is about this, not a mask with a person who needs Patrick Tian to learn to love themselves first. It's not a human being who needs to go to Terreal to learn to become a functional adult. No, that's the exact point I'm trying to make, is that it doesn't take 10 years. It's 2025. There's trauma attachment information all over the place. I've been not only ascending as a mystic since 2007 with all my lovely twin flames and my oversoul and soulmates. Before that, with my lovely teenage boyfriend, I didn't regret the relationship for years. His cheating wasn't something that made me lose trust in humanity. No, because God made us, you ridiculous, inconsistent human being, is what I think of teenagers who kept using Lucifer's name and all of this shit when I'm like, you're cowards. You don't know how to speak. You're coward. You're coward. I pointed to every single one of them, bad-mannered or not. I was a teenager like all of them, and I didn't have fear, and I still don't. I don't want to waste my time with masculines. It's not men. It's the masculine. The left mode by itself doesn't mean anything except for Cusco. What's up? Which one of your hands I get to play with? Is it your fight? Is it your flight? Is it your freeze? Oh, is it your 3 to 7 shame submissive? Is it your please appeaser? Which one is it? Your pretender? I don't like pretenders. Or is it your attached panicky? 0-1. So now that I know all those child parts, when I am in the presence of people, I don't tell them who they are. My body is an empowered one, and that's as a mystic, but also as a self-help, personal development human being who's been putting my higher self into practice since day one, because I got lucky. I have a higher self that didn't leave, and it's differentiated. So I'm sharing with you all. People think that I have some issue because I'm polyamory, because I don't cry in front of a screen in the way they want. Excuse me, I will cry with who I want to. When I want to, but also, why are you making vulnerability so dramatically way down? I don't understand this, because I can feel your nervous system as you lead yourself into temporal junction and then compare me to you, and I'm not you, and you're not me, and you need to back off. Unhealthy human being who doesn't know what a meshing is, but I do, because I got it told to me, and it's disgusting. From a human being's perspective, to have people come around me with all this shit. It's called insecurity. Go get help instead of doing what you're doing and then becoming more and more, I'm an intuitive. I know what you're thinking. No, I'm intuitive and you don't know what I'm thinking. You may perceive shit, but no. So projection is very straightforward for a person who has healthy self-worth, and this was as things move forward. The teenage boyfriend, I had no clairs. I just said, look, this is what my plan is. We were best friends. Here's where I'm going. Here's what I'm doing. We don't put our friends aside. We don't put our families aside. And we're not going to be shitty like our friends at Anchors at the time. They're doing a lot of shit. Oh, and I'm not jealous, so please. So the cheating thing was not a situation. And when someone was like, you let him get away once we were broken up, I said, what? You let him get away? He wasn't my dog. I didn't have him on a leash. Actively, actually, I was done a favor, because if it's that easy for somebody to be taken, I mean, why would I want that person? They're obviously weak. Because see, to me, weak means you're mentally weak. If you don't know how to stand your own ground and your own 2 feet and and if you're standing with a group, that doesn't count. My facade friend showed me what happens when pretenders are in a group. I don't believe in God. I don't believe in this. I don't believe in that. This is what Maria is doing. I wait till we get into the car, and then I give him my 2 cents. And I said, the only thing I asked you when we became friends again, after 5 years of me not talking to you, was to be yourself. And he's looking at me like, and today I have the technical words. It's called unhealthy self-worth human beings are going to consistently be please appeasers, attached criers, collapse submitters. I ain't your mama and I ain't your papa, and I don't want a pretend person in my life. So because that's hard work, no, it ain't hard work. You're lying. Liar, 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 liar. Scaredy cat, scaredy cat, scaredy cat, scaredy cat. And all the kids wanted to beat me up. So I learned how it was best not to do any of that, because I'm 4'9" and really I have better things to do than to be with people who will regret as they look to the past and reminisce, if only I had, if only I would, if only I, and never do they get the guts to do shit about it, because they lack self-awareness, accountability, regulation, to get their buttholes into a therapist room like Patrick Tian, a good one, not a bad one. Bad ones won't help you. And when they actively think that they know better, again, I don't want to do the know-it-all. Thank you, God, for reminding me. And I will not judge human suffering for those who want to stay in their crappy assholes, because at the end of the day, there's a lot of different things that take place in the world. And right now, there are bigger picture things. So at IHP, though, we take healing trauma seriously and we don't give pats on the back because there's one God. And then for science, there's dark matter and dark energy. And for science, they explain how you can get to love yourself first. It's called you go to therapy, and then you're going to watch how you have a good time in your relationship because it ain't hard work. If you are doing your partner's emotional work for them, then your inner child is still trying to fix a broken parent. Yes, a broken home. What I've noticed is every adaptive child part out there, where are they? Here they are, following the leader, the leader, the leader, and then they will impart those very same adaptive child, it's a child's version of what a grown-up shoulda, coulda, woulda done, onto every other child on the face of this planet, which is not integrity and it is not efficiency. It is not in any way, shape, or form for the benefit of all. It is, I will prove to myself that I know how to live right and they know how to live wrong, which is why flat earthers hang out only with flat earthers, which is also why mystics don't want to hang out with the Enlightenment Soul Age group mystics, because they will want to hear that they're special. Not everyone. They want only 144,000 of those human beings to be special, and then they forget that consciousness expands with two frequencies, not one. Two sides of a coin, not one. Walk like an Egyptian. Na, 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 na. Yin yang. Oh, they'll talk about it. But they won't really talk about it. And no. And I know somebody who does talk about it. And I don't talk about it the same way as she does. But we are both aware of, yeah, okay, you obviously don't know where you come from if you haven't had the capacity to know what light and darkness means. And no, don't be saliving with your mouth when you're, I'm in my shadow side. That's not what we're talking about. No, that's actually you being offline. You definitely want to go and get that taken care of, because that's called projecting, and you're structurally dissociated and you're on screen with it. And again, people who don't like how to do the hard work, they're called cowards in the world of those of us who know what hard work means. Patrick Tiahan, I love you, man. I'm going to read a little bit of what you shared. So as he says, we might be coaching them about boundaries with their toxic family. We might be feeding them with self-help books. We might be trying to get them to fix their relationship with their sister. We might even be trying to get them to be better parents in blended families. He says we might be trying to sell them on therapy. And then he continues, when I see clients struggling with a partner who isn't psych-minded, he says, I get it. And then he says it's really, really tough, especially if that client is on a path. Sometimes their partner eventually goes to therapy and things get better, sure, but what I'm describing here, he says, isn't about the outcomes. Most of the time, he says, their partner has zero interest, and that is their choice. That is the brutal honesty. Yes, it's a person's choice if they want to move into becoming their higher self, restorative, embodied, self-aware, accountable, regulating person. At IHP, we are past that. FYI, personal development and self-help, spiritual growth happens when you own your brain, your mind, yourself, your body, your heart. And people who don't own their brain, we know who they are because they're actively the codependent martyr superiors who say, and do what he just described. Healthy, self-worth human beings don't do any of this. When I have women come to me, you poor unfortunate souls, so sad but true, this one wanting to be all of this shit. They're not anchored in their ventral energy. They refuse to go to therapy to learn how to. They refuse to think of their emotional plane being able to be consistently on a high, and they continue to talk about suffering. And I say, well, I guess then you must be one of the Buddhists, because that is what life is to them. Number one truth is that life, this very existence, is suffering, as our lovely Shaolin master says. I ain't a Buddhist, I'm a Christian, Catholic. In fact, Jesus suffered. I don't suffer relationships. It's not hard for me to tell you, you're being an asshole. I don't know what the shit's going on, but that ain't me, and I ain't gonna handle you because you ain't my baby, and you better not handle me because I ain't your baby. No. So selves that are differentiated and whole, they know their space and their arena, and they say, we talk to each other, not down, not up, not on side notes. Nope. And we definitely don't do let's put on a mask and a show. No, there's no mask or show. There's I will cry, I will get angry, I will talk about it, I will not project it though. And that's very specific because it's the way that you're deciding to treat each other. The ones who regret life and relationships. I've seen a number of people talk shit about their parents. Once their parents died, they now reminisce about those days. And I'm like, what? You talked shit the entirety of them being... But that's human stuff. Yeah, but is it really? Because I think that lacks self-awareness, and people don't like to hear it. And so now that I'm a grown up with attachment trauma education, I understand teenagers don't like to be told what actively they did, which is you're a coward, you're a coward, you're a coward, you're a coward. And that's because they don't want emotional depth, because as the Zen master points out, it's laundry. He does his temporal junction, but as scientists point out, you could be in the flow state, the brain scientist, and that emotions last 90 seconds. And that takes work, though, for you to do something called mindfulness. No. Before you can even get there, you need to actually know to be in affect, so window welcome. So it isn't a race or a contest, but not everybody wants to be in the restorative embodiment. I don't know. I think that might be a bit too far to say that. I get excited because of knowing how healthy life can be from a body that is in the restorative embodiment, and when you're self-aware, accountable, regulating. But I forget that I have a whole 3-year-old heart who was a differentiated self. So with Robert Sapolsky, the term in science is I'm humbled as a spiritual being who is a human being who's a functional child adult to remind myself, thank you God, don't judge suffering, thank you human scientists, because there's a journey, as Pat Ogden points out, for every person who's on trauma time. And as Peter Levine and Stephen Porges and Bezel van der Kolk and Janina Fisher and Dr. Daniel Siegel and Fox and Patrick Tihan and Terry Real will point out, it's a person's choice. And if they don't believe in sciences, they will not. In fact, they'll still believe in demons and devils, and they will go on and on and on about that. And that's for another time. Meantime, for the people who do heal, they won't bring projection, and that's what makes them a divine counterpart, because they say, I do want access to my higher self. I do my higher potential, which is the depth of my emotional mental plane and the awareness of what trauma charges are, and how by loving myself and being myself with neutrality and compassion, and that's in their own timing, that they can, as they're healing, with a healthy self-worth partner, because that is what happens to all of us, but not with unfinished business. You will bring out that which is unseen, not in a way of let me project, but in a way of I have stuff that comes up. And that actually is really great conversations, because we don't say it's my shadow side, it's my light side. No, it's my siren. Nope, no stories. There's a way that we all can organize the box. So I organize my life in certain ways. You organize it in your ways. The beauty of love is that it's not to be understood. It is something that is felt, which is why people who know unconditional love with flaws and imperfections, we will not ever stop loving someone. The love is consistently on. That's the higher self, and the lover, the one, is consistently channeled. And that's where the divinity, Akash, source, some of us who are channeling with the 5D frequency, okay, and or the 5D, however you want to term it, mindset, because it could also be considered a mindset. I'm going to bring in, again, the art of loving. The human stuff, the social construction of reality, helps people to understand that when you use your human name, and you don't ignore owning the brain, the mind, the body, the heart, the self, so becoming the owner, observe, witness, narrate of your sense of self, core, relational, solo, and again, narrative, that's when you are not going to fall for identities or stay in very fixed, rigid identities, the personality patterns that get, no, you're going to be not an identity, you're going to be your human name. You don't get into spiritual bypassing or becoming some type of savior complex therapist person who needs still help, or a narcissist. And this is really bad, the spectrums, but there are plenty of people who have had bad experiences, both with mystics, shamans, but also therapists. So we, as a community of people who care mental health, as Janina Fisher points out, nobody self-sabotages, and Beth and Ruth Lanius too. It's people who are afraid to go, and they don't need to go anywhere. That's why we have the fearful ones. Thank your brothers and sisters of fear. The lady with the it's dangerous to have no emotions and we need to perform, and the man with lack of imagination for evil, are for people who will stay on the surface level of the depths of their emotional plane. It doesn't mean that they're going to get bad information. They just won't learn ever anything about their self, because their inner child is left to die in a cell, rotten, with self-loathing, gut wrench, and hellhole inside here. And in the meantime, they want to call us names, which they can keep it coming. Keep it coming. We'll know who you are, and we won't tell you, because the difference is we don't want to play any of drama, and we also don't want to waste our breath. Your ears can't hear us, because that's what happens when a person's an adaptive child part and in their safety behavior. Excuse me, you're confusing science spirituality. No, I'm not. You don't know what I'm talking about. And I don't have time to understand. No, I don't have time to explain it to you, because you don't want to hear. You're talking over me. You don't care to hear. You also keep on chiming in like you know more. So please, you already have your mind made up. I don't need to talk. And that's the one thing about unfun interactions. I like to socialize. And you can only socialize with people who are not lost, so they have no vanity, they have no identity crisis, they have no kind of spiritual bypassing or self bypassing, so they don't need to fill the room with their rights or wrongs. And those are the very uninteresting human beings that we do have to interact with at some time, but it's okay. We don't waste time with people who are limited, and that's where the regret is not for those of us who live healthy self-worth, because we consciously know, okay, we got brothers and sisters of fear, we're going to make it work out. Why? Because we can. I accept all, reject none. I can unconsciously love you because I have flaws and imperfections, and I actually don't need to talk to you about my deep emotional, mental, physical, and all of it. I don't have to talk about anything. And contemplation won't be talked if you don't know how to contemplate and have a good time contemplating. So the people who want to expand consciousness, that's the higher potential. That's the divine counterparts and divine divinity. When people use those words, you only access that which is the generator of diversity. Thank you, Dr. Daniel Siegel, for the acronym. When you have an integrated brain and a restorative, embodied, self-aware, accountable, regulating life, so it means you're curious, open, accepting, and loving, which, as Dr. Daniel Siegel presents, means you're in your present, in your prefrontal. Now that I'm in the now, I'm also in a physiological state of compassion. My insula is on, my amygdala is alerted, my prefrontal engaged, and I went past my temporal junction, and I'm not ruminating. I don't use my biases or my charges because I'm not ruled by my 14-month-old. I'm ruled by Maria, the very human being who's right here, and it ain't a special gift. It's actively something that you do when you do get deeply emotionally, mentally, and physically involved in your own life without pointing fingers and shaming, blaming, or faulting. Which is the one thing I could not stand with all those adolescents. Take ownership of your ego. And I had forgotten about the ego when I got opened up to Claire's. Thankfully, I was reminded of ego. And when I was like, shit, Maria, you forgot about ego. It's okay. Now that you remembered and you're learning attachment trauma, it's all good, because now you have clear views, and every single one of those 4D people are so off it's not even funny, and now they're making up bullshit stories with the twin flame because they don't even know how to handle their own twin flame. False twin flame, real twin flame, divine counterpart here, soul tie there, and they're just adding to the books of all of that. Oh, well, wait, relationships so atric, let's leave them alone. They need their boxes with words and like that. You all need words. I do use words too, so that I can try to make some sense out of what wants to be shared. You have to. But I don't find words as powerful as feelings, because feelings come first. But you do need to use them because you have a left mode going on. Even though it should be quiet as you're listening to others speak, that's the politeness of 3-year-olds who do know how to be healthy self-worth. So whole self people that are healthy self-worth and that are their own lover, and they do know that they can have their own siren, but they don't give in to the siren, okay? So they are able to work with that, which is something, I don't know about this stuff because I don't have this. I have a twin. I love my twin to death, so I don't have that, and I got to be seen in all my little quirky self, and then to say, here's who I am. When I got disowned, I got told it's not possible. So ha 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 ha, you can't disown me, you have to put up with me, you can't touch me. And that was the annoying child I was, which I take full ownership of. So we can thank my twin, because thanks to her, nobody has to put up with ha 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 ha, you can't touch me, because she's the only one who we still have the very same 3-year-old dynamic and the same one. I'm not even kidding, y'all. The last time we got into a conversation, I said, look, it was a conversation for us, but for the entire group, it was like, ah. I was like, next time, let's go to the room so that you and I can do our thing and they don't have to be a part of it. Because apparently our energetic exchange is something they can't stand. And I get it, because I'm the bossy one. I have a plaque. It's called Bossy. And I'm actively full on, all in it. She's na na na. So she's all chillax. And smart therapists inform you that siblings actively have. One will be sympathetic, if you will. One will be dorsal vagal, even though it's not those, because dorsal vagal would be shut down. But I'm saying one is more charged. The other one's more laid back. And so the third, well, they get stuck with the 2, and therefore it's more of, oh no. And yeah, the 11-year-old of us was still the same, but I got to baby my baby sister, which I love to death. And so there you go. Deeply emotional, deeply mental. Those of us who are not insecure, it is because we've resolved emotional, mental, and physical equations with the 2 sides of the brain. So you don't regret your life or your relationship choices, because your higher self tells you, anyone who loves me will want me to be happy. They will have compersion. They don't have to be polyamory. They will have the desire to see me smile, and they will have the desire to see me safe physically, and they will have the desire to participate. And that will be with their amygdala. And it won't be something that's a ball and chain and it will go away. Oh, it's something that grows. And that is the one thing that, as the teenage boyfriend is breaking up with me, I don't think about you in the morning. I said, okay, that's it then. Because we would talk about that. When you are wanting to grow old with someone, it never stops to think about the people you want to grow old with. That's all people that are part of your herd. And yes, we have a lot of friends. The polyamory community doesn't consider people that are platonic lovers indifferent, okay? Although not, again, everybody understands this. I have been made aware of it. We are not whores. We are not masochists. Some of us don't do that. You're not poly enough. And we definitely do not do cheating. It's called consensual non-monogamy, and we have very serious conversations. You only have them if you have a healthy self-worth person, which is why we have the therapist that is out there that I know of. I think it's Jessica Fern. She helps people to work through that. Those of us who are emotionally mature, we don't need somebody to help us work through anything because, again, we have higher self and lover, and so we don't regret our choices. We look to our life, we look to our relationships, we will have learned from those aspects. And really, when a relationship doesn't work, like the teenage boyfriend, just means you're incompatible. So it's not, oh my God, but I was rejected at 4 and my twin got to go for a ride. So I've been used to being put to the side and being said it's not better or worse. You know what different is? My mother. It's you are you and she is her. And you have weaknesses and strengths, and she has weaknesses and strengths. Different isn't better or worse. It's different. Neutral. I'm just saying that's exactly how it works. In fact, when I got to the Cain and Abel story, I said, you know, God, that really wasn't nice. You could have had them both feel like they were worthy. Now we have them fighting, and then they killed each other. Now what? And those who think it's a lesson, I say, no, it's not a lesson, because it could have been different. It could have been, hey, you both gave me something, thank you so much. And ancient stories are ancient stories for a reason. History, taking it out of context, applying it to the year 2025. No, that's not going to work. And I don't know enough about it, but I'm pretty sure meat and grain had different value for reasons of health and other things that I'm not aware of because my brain doesn't remember regurgitation of, but I know humanities and social sciences. And this, sociology, yeah. I'm pretty certain if I had a group of experts, they would be able to explain the whole meat and grain thing with the data of, at the time, this is and, you know, the bloodshed thing, actually, Eric Fromm also has answers for that. The genius for human, evil and good, the heart, something like that. Yeah, basically those who don't find their place in society, which, Basil van der Kolk also would have an answer for that, and so would Dr. Danny Fox. People who don't feel that they belong because they're in their defectiveness like this. And yes, you can bring in psychopathy, but that's a spectrum, and also that's actually physiologically something that has an explanation. So I have an explanation that actively is valuable, not the pseudoscience lady. The researchers do it better. Just saying nobody's evil, Knievel, medieval from philosophy or religion. And so anybody who wants to take textbooks and give it to me, I'm like, I don't know enough to explain it to you. Because I don't, but I do know that there's a reason, like with the whole pork thing. It was something that gave disease or something like that. So there's explanations. You want the story, then you don't want to be here. If you want a story, you just want to do this, and that's fine. You want to have a hero and a villain because you have poor unfortunate souls. So sad, but true. Hey, Pinocchio, have fun with flat earthers and silverbacks and all the people follow each other and put people on pedestals and books. We don't put anything on a pedestal because today I know some information, tomorrow I'll know some other. And in the meantime, meteor, please don't hit us. Dark matter, dark energy. I am a 5D mystic, so I do know the future. It will be fine, everyone. Don't worry. I leave Earth when Earth is done. Just FYI, I can't prove it, but I do. And I even asked a very specific question, and I got an answer, and I'm going to leave that one alone. So thanks for stopping by. If you are curious, we're going to have some full moon messages in a little bit. And please, again, compassion and love and fear coexist. Thank both sides of the coin. You get to choose which one you want. Some people say you don't, and in that case, then we will not be able to do anything, but we will know with our functional child adult how to be healthy self-worth people. Immunity isn't enough to be saluted, got treated with decency. I got to self-regulate easily, but by the end, they're like, we're going to become friends. I'm like, no, we won't. We're going to frequent the same place. Yes, we are, because my body doesn't lie. We will continue to interact and talk. No, we won't. Yes, we will see each other here again. Yes, but that is all. And you're putting up barriers. No, I'm just telling you how it is. Yes, and that was it. And this is where, to prove to you why I consistently communicated by not communicating at all in 3 years, I don't want to be your friend, is you didn't tell him you didn't like him. No, Mom, I just didn't become his friend. I didn't talk to him. I didn't avoid him completely. I made sure he would understand I'm not socializing with you. And in a drunken evening, he became drunk to where he was able to speak, because only when you're drunk can a coward make themselves known, which isn't something I think, wow. No, I think, wow, therapy, please. No, I can't tell you that because you're married. You think you know things because you're also a published poet. Wow, and you regurgitate material from your mouth and you come all dressed up, and apparently you think you're cultured because of all of this external shit. And that's exactly why the fancy lady man ensued. Sure, keep on dressing up. I know what's inside, but I ain't going to tell you because you're actually giving a space where my brothers and sisters of fear can feel that they belong. And that is an honor, because God tells me to stop judging human suffering, and there is no Lucifer, science tells me, and I could keep going like this. That's the whole point of why smart people say smart people could make their stories work. Yes, we could. And so can other people, though. So really, again, Alice in Wonderland, do you want to go down the rabbit hole? I certainly am not in that rabbit hole, but I am in one, and it's real fun. So join us if you do care to be here with the full moon messages. 5D Mystic, again, Enlightenment Soul Age Group, Functional Child Adult. This is spiritual self-help, mindful living, loving, personal development, people who want to grow spiritually. You don't lose people. It's with the higher self. The ones who have the pause self, they do whole other stuff, and they do love their sirens and their shadow parts, and they do love to get on screen and let us know how they were unseen, and then they like to make up stories about lovers and the self, and then they say it's not about the self, and they like to say, I'm going to prove that twin flames is a real thing, and then they're going to say, no, there's no twin flames, and then you say, wow, you were really committed to what you decided. You were the number one coach in, and now that you have completely denied it, let me think, are you still a healer? So when I see hypocrites, I just remind myself, leave it alone, Maria. God is the only one who needs to be doing stuff, and you already know it doesn't matter, because hell and heaven, it's in the body, and if you're not living in heaven yet, then you're not going to want to be here, because that's exactly what happens to those who don't want to anchor in their ventral energy. They're like, what an asshole. Yeah, so it's okay. We all can be assholes, but the active assholes, well, they actually act like Diego's family. So I know who they are, and usually they don't take ownership in any way, shape, or form, but it's okay because we know how to take ownership. And so with that being said, again, our episode on divine counterpart and accessing your higher potential by loving and being you will come up later on, and have a great one.